Okay, so we got this interesting material you sent over from deventure.co. Thanks for that.
Yeah, it's definitely got a unique angle.
It really does. And what we want to do now, for everyone listening, is kind of dig into their main idea, this concept of being a prime mover. Because it feels like it's more than just, the usual tech solutions talk, right? It's about what that could actually mean for your impact.
Exactly. That's the mission for this deep dive, really, to unpack what they mean by prime mover. They're not just talking about fulfilling a contract.
No.
It sounds like they're aiming for something bigger, something that really sets their clients moving, leading the pack.
Okay, so prime mover. They say they build these, not just software. What's the core difference there? How does that translate to clients leading or, shaking things up?
Well, the key thing seems to be initiating significant momentum. It's like they see their clients taking these solutions and not just running their business better, but actually using them to define where their industry is going next, to be the ones everyone else starts watching and following.
Okay, interesting. And it doesn't just stop with the client's own P&L, does it? They talk about a force multiplying impact. What does that actually look like?
Think of it like dropping a stone in a pond.
Yeah.
Ripples, right?
Yeah.
So when one of their clients really takes off, becomes a leader, it creates this sort of knock-on benefit. It helps the whole sector, maybe the local community, the partners. The whole ecosystem gets a lift from that one company's innovation and leadership.
They also use this analogy, clients as potential butterflies, and deventure provides the cocoon. It's kind of nice imagery.
It is, yeah.
So what are the key bits of that cocoon? What makes it work?
Well, from what they describe, it sounds like providing the right environment for that transformation. You need warmth, support, a collaborative space.
Sure, makes sense.
But crucially, also challenge. It's not just cozy, it pushes them.
Pushes them to grow, to change.
Exactly. And it's about empowerment too, giving them the agency and enablement, the actual tools and capabilities to emerge as those prime movers, to take flight.
And deventure seems to see themselves as part of a, quote, new wave, focused on transforming the client, not just maximizing their own profit per project. What's the real shift there? Is it just marketing spin?
I think the core difference is where the primary focus lies. Instead of thinking, how much can we bill for this service? The mindset seems to be, how incredibly successful and influential can we help this client become?
And the idea is their own success follows from that.
That seems to be the belief, yeah, that the really significant long-term value for everyone, including them, comes from genuinely helping the client reach their peak potential.
Right, and you mentioned the ripple effect, so that prime mover status for one company, it doesn't exist in a vacuum, does it?
Absolutely not. When a company becomes a true prime mover, they set a new standard. They become sort of a proof of concept.
A model for others.
Exactly. It inspires others in that same ecosystem.
Yeah.
Competitors, partners, they see that success and think, okay, we need to raise our game too. They start aiming higher, innovating more. Success, in this view, kind of breeds more success. It lifts the whole environment.
It makes me think about how they contrast that with a typical service provider relationship, which they call sort of 1.1 linear, versus their approach, which they frame as force multiplication, maybe one to many or even one to infinite. How do they actually achieve that amplification? What's the mechanism?
It really comes down to leverage, I think. The traditional way is often, you put in X effort, you get Y result. Direct.
Simple transaction.
Yeah. What they seem to aim for is creating systems, platforms, or strategic advantages, the leverage that allow a client's own efforts to achieve a much, much bigger impact. An impact that spreads far beyond that initial interaction.
So less like trying to push a huge boulder by hand.
Right. More like finding the perfect spot to place a lever and moving it with much less direct force, but with a massive outcome.
Okay, that makes sense. So how do they actually describe themselves then? What terms do they use for their role in this?
They use phrases like leverage creators, which fits what we just discussed.
Yeah.
Also force multipliers, obviously. And I thought this one was interesting. Builders of invisible systems.
Invisible systems.
Yeah. It highlights that focus on maybe the underlying structures, the strategies, the foundational elements that aren't always obvious on the surface, but which empower those companies to become great, to lead their markets.
So thinking about our listener then, if you're out there running an enterprise or part of one, and you're looking for more than just, say, a software vendor or a consultant.
Right.
If you're actually aiming to be a genuine change maker, maybe a co-architect of impact in your field, then it sounds like deventure's philosophy is talking directly to you.
I think that's the core message, really. It's all about generating that significant forward momentum, that transformative impact for their clients, positioning them not just as successful businesses, but as true leaders who drive their whole industry forward.
So a final thought maybe for everyone listening to reflect on, thinking about your own work, your own projects, what would it actually mean to operate with that prime mover mindset yourself?
Yeah, how could you aim to create that kind of positive ripple effect, that force multiplication in whatever you do?
And maybe ask that question to Venture Implies. How much can I move? Something to think about. Thanks for digging into this with us today.
My pleasure. Interesting stuff.